Hi everyone, and welcome to Watercolors with Jaylene. And for today's tutorial, I'm going to do a couple of different winter sceneries. One is going to be some snowflakes, and then another just a little winter wonderland. And it's just something fun to do, you know, creating snowflakes. No two are the same, and so it's fun to sit down and just kind of paint and enjoy yourself and relax. And especially with this time of the year, we all need to do a little relaxing. So what and it's real easy today. We're only using two different shades of blue and then a little bit of the white gouache, a couple of paint brushes, my small number 4 round, and then my larger, this is a number 14 round. And then on the kind of like the sky with the snowflakes, I will put just a little saying on there. It can make a nice little Christmas greeting card, and but you could do whatever you want with it. So it's just a little bit of therapeutic, fun painting today. Two simple colors, and I'm going to set this one aside. We'll start with this one because what we're going to want to do is kind of get the paint on here, and then of course the gouache, creating the little snowflakes. And so once we put that on there, we're going to want to set that aside and let that dry. And while that's drying, we'll have some fun with the snowflakes. So real quick to get started with this one, what we want to do is take our piece of paper, and I also have a couple of glasses of water to rinse my brush in as well. So to get started with this one, we just want to take some water and get the paper wet, not super wet, but we definitely want to get some water down so that the blues will blend very nicely. And so we'll want to start with some of the two colors I'm using are a turquoise blue and then also an ultramarine blue, which is a little bit darker. So this is the turquoise blue, and I have quite a bit on the brush. And so I just want to very quickly, paint this onto the paper, leaving it a little bit lighter at the bottom. And of course, as it dries a little bit lighter. So, so we'll just kind of leave that as is. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the ultramarine, and not a lot. I'm going to kind of get a little bit on my brush, and then I just want to dab it in a little bit here and there to create a couple different tones of blue throughout this. And as I mentioned, I want it a little bit darker towards the top, and then not quite so much towards the bottom. So we have the two blues, and see how quick and easy that was. And it's going to be those same two blues that we'll be using on the snowflakes as well. So we have this, it's still pretty wet as you can tell. And now I'm just going to take my gouache. Let me get a little bit on my palette here. Okay, so I have some gouache on there. And while this is still pretty wet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some flakes. So I get some water, and we definitely want to water down the gouache. And I'm using my number 14 round brush for this. I want my splatter to be kind of large. And so I'm just going to tap it on my smaller brush, and you can see how that's really fanning out. So we did a few taps with that, and I'm going to let that dry for just a minute. And then as I don't want it to be totally dry, but as it gets a little bit drier, then we can go back in with a small number 4 brush and tap in some white gouache into the middle of the splatters. And that's going to give it more of a snowflake look on it. So we're going to give this just a minute. And while that's drying, I'm going to set that aside. So while that's drying, I do want to get the other piece of paper out so that we can take a peek at these snowflakes and talk about this for just a minute. So what I did here was I had two large snowflakes, which were the feature, and then two smaller ones, and just some little burst, you know, little snowflake or star burst throughout, and then some very light dots throughout. And the dots, I purposely put them on there with a paintbrush. I didn't do a splatter. If you wanted to do a splatter, that would be fun too. Something a little bit different. And so I'm going to set that aside, and I think actually this has been, I guess, long enough that I can go ahead and I'm going to put just a little more gouache on here. I want it just a little thicker than what I mixed up there. All right, so I'll take a little bit of this and just kind of get my brush nice and full with a little bit thicker of a gouache white. And then I want to go in and just tap into the middle of all of these. And you can see with the paper still being wet that this is spreading out also, but it is a little more pronounced. And then as this sets for a bit, these will spread out also. Then I'm going to go through and just put a few in other areas. And you can put as much or as little. I think the more snowflakes or, you know, the little white dots that you have on here, the more fun it looks. And just put them all over. You can go back through and double tap on ones that you've already done. Because once we get these little white snowflakes on here, then we will set this aside. We want it to dry very good. We want it to be totally dry, actually. So while this is drying, we'll work on our snowflakes. Okay, so I think that looks good. And I'm going to set this aside so that that can dry for a while. Oh, and real quick, you will notice how I was very intentional on making sure that it was darker at the top and then a little bit lighter at the bottom. And then, as I mentioned, as that dries, it will lighten up a little bit. So I'm going to set that one aside and clean my brush real well. And then I'm going to just set that water aside and bring this one out. So for the snowflakes, as I mentioned, no two are the same. So when I actually do these, they aren't going to look exactly like the ones I have on my sheet here either. So what I want to do is with a little, very, very light paint, I want my brush to be pretty loaded with water. And what I'm going to do is create, you can see it's just barely visible, the blue on there, but I want a lot of water to be on these lines. That's very important, that the lines do have quite a bit of water, and you'll see why in just a moment. Okay, so I have the basis. So now what I'm going to do is take a little bit of the ultramarine, the darker blue, and go to the middle and just tap it. And we want that to spread out a little bit through these, through the lines that we put on there. And that's why we wanted quite a bit of water, so that it would work its way out. So as that's working its way out, I'm going to go back in with the lighter, which is turquoise, is the name of this blue. And then I'm just going to tap that onto the ends of each one of these and let them just kind of, you know, work their way down and blend in with the other blue. So as these dry, they'll lighten up a little bit, and I'm just kind of helping it along just a little bit. You can, or, you know, if you just want to let it do its own thing, you know, you can do that also. Okay, so while that's doing what it needs to do, I'm going to take a little bit of water and just start creating some fun snowflake designs. And we want the different shades of blues, some lighter, some darker, with the two different shades. We can kind of let them blend in, you know, while this is all still wet. So we can get some blending going on here. And keeping it very light. And this is just fun to do, like I said, a little bit of a therapy thing on a weekend. This time of year can get so crazy and stressful for all of us with the holidays and the Christmas buying and the baking and, you know, family coming into town or you traveling out of town. And so this is kind of a nice way to chill out for a couple of hours, just sit and paint. Excellent therapy. Okay, so we have the basis there, and see how there's the different shades going on? That's the really fun part. So now I'm going to take a little bit of the ultramarine, and I just want to do some, let's get a little bit less here. And like I said, for the snowflakes, you can be creative as you want. I love little dots everywhere, so you'll see that I will be putting a lot in throughout. Okay. All right. And then as I'm doing this, if you haven't already liked and subscribed to my channel or subscribed to my channel and liked my videos, I would really appreciate it if you would go ahead and do that. It helps my channel grow, and I appreciate the support. So there's one snowflake. Now for the next one, we're going to do the same thing. We want to make sure that there is plenty of water on the brush so that when we do lay the color down, it will carry through. All right, and then for this one, I think what I'm going to do is just use a little bit of the the turquoise and put that in. And then I'm going to very lightly, with the turquoise on my brush, kind of paint in something a little bit thicker. And see what we can create with this. And then if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know when I'm creating any of my greeting cards, I like to use my Stickles glitter glue. And so I will probably at the end of this one put a little bit of glitter glue throughout this just to see, you know, bring it to life a little bit, I guess. So now I'm doing the darker blue. And I did dab it there and it's kind of blending. I kind of like that. So I'm going to see if I can do that in each one of the corners. And see how fun this is? You start out with one thing in mind, and then it kind of leads to something else. Now how cool is that? And you can make, you know, greeting cards with this, little place cards, maybe tags for gifts. You know, you could do all kinds of things, or just keep painting snowflakes. Okay, and then I'm going to do some dots, of course. All right, so I want that one to dry for just a couple minutes. Look at how fun that is with the ultramarine blending in with the turquoise on each one of those corners. I really like that look. All right, so while that's drying, I'm going to do a couple of small ones here and here. And keep these not quite as detailed. So for this one, that is quite a bit of paint, quite a bit of color on that brush, but that's okay, I can work with it. And that's the fun thing about doing these snowflakes, you know, there's no right or wrong to any of it. Because if you do something you didn't mean to, you can always make it into something else. So we're starting out with that. Now with these, I think I want to kind of just touch in a little bit of the darker and see if I can make that kind of blend through there a little bit to give it a little bit of contrast. A little contrasting color. And I'm just very lightly using the tip of my number 4 brush for all of this. Okay, and let's tap in a little bit of the darker blue and let that flow and blend and create some really cool colors. Then if you wanted to add other shades of blue, that would work fine too. You could even maybe put some greens in there. And this is kind of backwards of when you think of snowflakes, you think of a blue background with white snowflakes, and that's why this is so cool, because it's just a little bit different. All right, now let's add a little bit into here. So you can make these as intricate as you want or as plain. I think the more little dots and lines that you have throughout is what really makes them look so different, so interesting, and it's not hard to do. I think we'll put little dots in there. Okay, that's kind of a fun one too, isn't it? All right, so this one is pretty well dry. So what I want to do with this one is I want to go in and let me grab a little bit of this ultramarine blue. There's almost a little too much on here. I just kind of wanted to add a few dots. Into here just to give it a little more detail. And then a few dots around here. This is a lot of fun. Okay. Now for my 4th one here. I think with this one I'm going to do something a little different. Come up with something a little more creative, I guess. So on this one, I'm just kind of pushing harder towards the middle and then lifting up as I come out to give it that little bit of dimension. Oops, let's straighten this one out just a little bit. Okay. So this is almost like a flower type of design is what I'm kind of starting with there, but I'm gonna, of course, add a lot more detail and see what we come up with. And speaking of flowers, I have some really nice floral tutorials And some of them are, I try and keep them fairly easy and basic because I do make a lot of greeting cards out of them. So, you know, they're very quick and easy to do, most of them anyway. And they're a lot of fun. And so be sure to check those out when you have a couple extra minutes and you have your paintbrush in your hand and you want to find something fun to create. And of course, for the different holidays, I try and come up with some fun ideas. And I think I had mentioned, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, if you could go ahead and do that and help me grow. I've been at this for not quite a year, and I want to keep growing and creating and bringing new ideas to my subscribers, my followers, and that's the best way to help me do it. Okay, so now I have my 4 basic designs on here. So now I'm going to take my the turquoise blue. I want to keep it with the lighter. And with the very tip of my brush, I just want to do kind of like a little star. I'm going to put these throughout. And see how it really just kind of makes everything fill right up and look really cute. These are so much fun to do. I have sat and done, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 of these already. And I'm sure I'll be doing more. And then once I'm done with them, I will probably tuck a lot of them into the ribbon on gift packages for under the tree. Just to add a lot of, you know, add a little bit of fun and whimsy to the gifts under there. See how fun this is looking already? And as I mentioned, if you wanted to use some of the, I use the Stickles glitter glue, and usually it's the iridescent. I know it comes in different colors. I like to use the iridescent. That kind of goes with every color out there. So now I'm just going to touch in some of the little dots here and there. Oops, make that a little bigger. See how cute this is? Oh, I think this one's my favorite one so far of all the ones I've done. All right. Actually, I'm just using the turquoise for the little dots around, but if you wanted to use the ultramarine or a darker blue, you know, and fill in some of the dots with another color also, that'd be pretty cool. So I think that's pretty much it. And as I mentioned, let's grab the Stickles since I've been talking about it. So on this one, well, I'm going to let this one dry a little bit more. So we can go back to this one. And on this, if I just go through with my Stickles and real quick, and I don't think it's going to be quite as visible on video or on the camera as it is in real life, but the glitter glue really makes them pop. I absolutely love this stuff, and especially for all of my winter designs. It's just magical. Okay. And like on these little stars, I don't do all of the lines. I just do a couple of them to bring out a little bit of glitter. Then dab onto just some of the dots here and there. And then on this, let's do like the main ones. All right, I think here, let's add it to this. How fun is that? Okay. All right, so, oh, that is cute. kind of surprised myself on this one. So anyway, that is pretty much it for the little snowflake design. And then this is the one, and it's still drying, so I don't want to add any of the Stickles glue to this. But it is Stickles glitter glue, and as I said, this is the iridescent shade for that. So I'm going to set these aside, and now we have the winter snow design. So what I'm going to do with this, now that this is totally dry, I'm just going to hand write a little season's greetings on here. And with this, I'm using a Sharpie permanent marker. It's their fine point. And yeah, I'll just put season's greetings. My writing isn't always the neatest. There. And that can be, there again, I could put someone's name on there, slip it under the ribbon on their gift, and that would look really cute on this one. If I wanted to maybe put someone's name on there, you know, and slip that under, or make it into a greeting card, or just have fun creating all of my different snowflake designs. You know, you can do so many things with all of them, is pretty much what I'm saying, and have fun with it. And like I said, it's a nice relaxing stress reliever for this crazy holiday season. And for now, I think this is about it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'd be happy to answer them. I am going to put in the description all of the different, well, the two different colors that I use. They're Grumbacher paints, and I will, you know, also put in there the paint brushes and the Stickles. So everything is in there to create these, as well as the paper. And this is just an Arches 140-pound cold pressed paper that I use. And I buy it in tablets, and then with my paper cutter, I just cut it down into smaller sizes depending on how big I want it and what I'm using it for. So I will put everything in the description below so that it's there for your convenience. And until next time, ciao for now.